Hey everybody, we are back with another Mathman Mondays. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to teach a lesson. I'm not going to do a bunch of math on the stream today. I'm specifically wanting to talk about the ACT. This is something I help students with all the time. We see it multiple times throughout the year. And I thought, hey, this week there's an ACT coming up, I believe. Maybe it's the week after. No, it's this week. Anyways, but the math portion of the ACT is, I don't want to say the most random, but the most unique of all of the parts. You have English, you have reading, you have math, you have science. My personal opinion is the ACT is a reading test, so the English reading and science portion is all reading. If you can read and you can comprehend, you will be fine. Now, with the math portion, you come into some issues. With the math portion, you need a solid foundation of Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry to at least have a good shot at attempting the ACT. But after that, you also need trig. I see the most growth with students in pre-calculus, and the reason that happens is because you get that, algebra review, you get a geometry review, but then you hit trig, and trig is the end-all, be-all for the ACT. There's really nothing too much after that for pre-cal. We talk about some logarithms and things of that nature, but really pre-cal is where the ACT stops. Now, I have seen a calculus question or two on there before, but we'll get to that in a bit. So the ACT, for the math portion, you get 60 minutes and you have 60 questions. So part of what we need to think about is how can we get through some of these questions quicker to spend some time on the more difficult ones. And I always have the suggestion of, it's a multiple choice test. If you are good at algebra, you understand that, hey, one of the answers is there and I can substitute it in. So if you get these algebra-like equations, use the answers to your advantage. All right, there's usually 4 to 5 answer choices. Spend time finding out what's not going to work, which is obviously wrong. And what I always suggest to my students is for the first 50 questions, go through and do all the ones that you can. All right, anything that's easy for you to go through and do, get it done. All right, after that, maybe make a check mark or some other type of mark that's like, hey, I think I have an idea what's going on, followed by, I have no idea. So that way you have, okay, these ones are done, medium difficulty, hard. First 50, keep in mind I'm saying the first 50. All right, we go through and do that. And you'll see many different things. We see fractions and probability, which is something I've talked a little bit about already with Mathman Mondays. We see some graphing, algebraic equations, absolute values, lots of word problems. Remember, I said the ACT is a reading comprehension test. This is just showing that. We see some geometry. If you need a refresh on geometry, I believe it's Math Planet has a great geometry review. It gives you kind of a comprehensive breakdown, but it's short and sweet and to the point. And really and truly, that's what we want. We don't want to spend a lot of time before the ACT trying to just pack in all this information. We want to be able to hit all those points and to keep it short and sweet so we can keep it in our memory. So some good geometry stuff. When you're reading these geometry, like word problems, please read the full problem. Walls in this building meet only at right angles. All right, that way you don't get thinking about some other crazy stuff. Read everything that's there. I'm a big proponent of making sure you read through the word problems. I'm not a huge acronyms guy, but I believe RATS is the key to that, where it's read, analyze, translate, and solve. You read the problem, you analyze it while reading the problem again, you translate that into a problem, and bam, you solve it. If you're following those 4 steps in a word problem, you'll be fine. You see some being able to graph. If you can count, you can graph, and then you pick what shape it's going to be. Brush up on this. This is an area that a lot of people kind of get confused on. Back to functions. We talked some of that already on the stream. Here's one of those nice little word problems. So we can go through and see all these different parts coming together. But if you notice, there's a lot of algebra. And the thing that's crazy is that's just this ACT. You could go take the ACT 3 months from then and find out, hey, that all that algebra stuff that was on the previous one, well, now I have a geometry heavy ACT. And that's what makes preparing for the ACT so difficult. You're sitting there and you're studying all these different math concepts, but it's really luck of the draw of, do I get a bunch of algebra today? Do I get a bunch of trig? And that's kind of scary because there's not really a good way to prepare for that besides literally going through and getting a good knowledge of everything. Which is why I always suggest when you're reviewing, hit those like points that you obviously do not know. Find ways to remember it. Like I said, short, sweet, to the point. Matrices, I don't see this too often on the ACT, so it's kind of interesting to see it there. Back with some more geometry, another nice little word problem. So as you can see, we're seeing a lot of algebra, we're seeing a lot of word problems, and we're seeing a lot of geometry. Know what alternate interior angles are, things of that nature. That can save you so much time on the ACT. If you're solving some of these problems in 30 seconds, you've opened up a ton of extra time for you. So you really need to go through and think about that. With some of these word problems, draw a picture, whatever helps you remember it, that's what's important. So we're going through these type of questions you see a lot of, and notice it's 23 through 25. That means you really want to read through this problem and think about, hey, what's happening here? Use the diagram they give you, and if you need to add any extra information onto it, use it. Use that to your advantage. It's there for a reason. And then that helps you out with 3 questions right off the bat. In fact, and then you have question 4 that's about a rectangle. Fantastic. Can't get any better. Okay, so this is how the first 50 questions are. Is you go through and, like I said, answer everything you know, make a nice little run through, and then maybe make a different, like, you have a dash and a check mark. Dashes are for medium difficulty. Check marks means I have no idea what's going on. Whatever works for you in your head to remember, and then, keep moving. Now, what's scary is once you get through these first 50 questions, you hit the last 10. The last 10 are notoriously the most difficult problems on the ACT. Now, and I've seen calculus, like general calculus questions come up here about limits. As we can see here, we have just a lot of different geometry and algebra. Got some absolute values with some number line ideas. But these last 10 are meant to be the most difficult problems that you will do. Conics come up here. Read through. Think about what you're doing, but I'm telling you, focus on the first 50, do what you can there, time-wise, and then when you have that extra time, go to the last 50 and see, hey, do I know anything here? One quick run-through, answer, find out what you know, find out what you kind of know, and then what you don't know, maybe you don't get time to do and you have to write down an answer. Now, that's unfortunate, but you need to be able to make an educated guess, and the goal is to get as many of these answered as possible. So the last 10, if you're struggling there, it is meant to be that way. That is meant to be the most difficult part of the test. So my thing is, let's think about the first 50. All right, when we're scrolling through here and we're looking at all of these, we see a lot of algebra. And generally, the people taking the ACT, you're pretty comfortable with algebra at this point. If you're better at geometry and worse at algebra, brush up on some like function notation, how to solve equations. All right, there's a lot of that out there. And it's really easy material to find. There's some good different outlooks. If you need any ACT material, feel free to like DM me on Twitter and I will throw some your way. I don't have a problem doing that. I have a ton of it. But take the time and see what's going on. So, first 50 questions, and then the last 10 is where you get difficult. So the things we want to focus on is geometry, and like I said, I believe it was Math Planet. If you go to the geometry review there, it goes from lines and a nice little review through all of geometry. Use that to your advantage. If you do not know trig, my suggestion to you is to go learn about sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Go through and look at some Khan Academy stuff because I don't have any videos posted of that yet, and get a general idea of what those mean. And see the use of right triangle trig, law of sines, and law of cosines. Law of sines and law of cosines doesn't come up too often, but if you have an idea of how it works, that can be helpful with the ACT. But you're mostly wanting to look at right triangle trig. That is your end-all, be-all for looking at trig functions. So use that to your advantage. Follow that up with looking at logarithms. If you didn't get to hit that a lot in algebra, that's another concept that comes up in a bunch of pre-cal. remember that when you're using properties of mathematics, addition and multiplication hold the same exact properties, and then division and subtraction generally hold the same properties. So use that to your advantage. So logarithms is a place you want to go to and look. Exponential functions is a place you want to go look. There's one other problem area that's slipping my mind right now. Review some fraction stuff because they like to throw a lot of fractions and percentages and probabilities at you. Understand what it means to ask for a probability and the general setup of that little tiny equation. And if you're doing those things and you spend the time there, you're going to be fine. All right. I didn't score some crazy score in the ACT when I was in high school. I super scored pretty well, with math being my strongest point. I would take the time, and maybe when you're reviewing, if you can go get a review book, that's great. Spend the time going there and working on that. But go look at some word problems. Get comfortable with reading through word problems. If you can go through, read some problems, solve all these different types of word problems, and get that comfortable feeling when you see them and not so much this nervous and anxious feeling, you're going to be so much better off. The struggle with the ACT is that all these problems, when you're looking through, there's so many type of word-esque problems, and that scares kids when they see word problems. It does. You don't see it enough in your math classes. So, when you're reading through and it says Ming purchased a car that had a purchase price of $5,400, which included all the cost and the tax, which is something people like to skip. She paid $1,000 as a down payment and got a loan for the rest of the purchase price. Ming paid off the loan by making 28 payments of $200 each. The total of her payments, including the down payment, was how much more than the car's purchase price? All right, I read through that whole problem. I'm saying, okay, well, I noticed some stuff there. Let me go back and analyze it. Okay, we know the purchase price was $5,400, which, fun fact, the last sentence of every word problem is generally the question, like 90% of the time. So $5,400, and they ask us about, how much more than the purchase price was the car. Keep in mind, how much more. All right, so when you're going through, when you're analyzing, underline things. Purchase price, $5,400. Down payment, $1,000. Paid it off after 28 payments of $200 each. All right, that lets you know all the information that you need to know. And it didn't take that long to do. Calculate it all up, subtract it $5,400 from it, and bam, now you know the car's purchase price. Take the time to read through it, understand what you're looking for, read the whole problem, and see what happens. Or, what is the absolute value of 3 minus x when x is 8? What's 3 minus 8? -5. Absolute value means what? It's going to turn positive, 5. All right, if you have a good little mathematical knowledge of a few of these terms, such as absolute value, you're going to be better off. You understand your different shapes. Geometry is key in a lot of these things. Have a general understanding of graphing, and then you should be fine. I'm a firm believer of that. Give you 1 second. I need to step to the side. Sorry, I coach cross country, and I got a little bit of allergies going on from today's run. But go through, read through the full problem. I fully believe if you follow those steps, you're going to do better. You're going to be more comfortable. And the ACT is about feeling comfortable. So again, first 50 problems, read through, do all the ones you absolutely know, the ones you kind of unsure about, make some type of notification next to that. The ones that are extremely difficult, make a different notification to yourself on those, and then go back through and do it again. The last 10 are the hardest. If you can answer any in the last 10, awesome. If you can't, know that most people can't. Review geometry. If you have some weaknesses in algebra you know about, with exponential functions or equations, graphing, logarithms, determinants with matrices or just matrices in general, review those. If you don't know trig, go learn about some right triangle trig. Learn about sine, cosine, and tangent. You should be fine. Make yourself familiar with word problems. Go do word problems. They make you uncomfortable, but that's what's mostly on the ACT. If you guys have any specific questions, feel free to ask. Shoot me DMs on Twitter. I'm I'm always open to feedback. I'm always open to help people out with this kind of stuff. This helps people get into college, and it keeps some people from getting to the colleges they want to. And that's unfortunate that a test can do that. So if any time I can help people, with that kind of stuff, I'm happy to help. I hope those little tidbits were helpful. I know this is a little bit different than what I've been doing on the Monday math streams, but I wanted to keep it short and sweet, give you guys some pointers, and hopefully help you get some confidence going forward. I'm going to stop my Math Mondays from there. Just a nice little 15 minutes today on that. If you have questions, like I said, there's a Twitter link below. Click it, follow me on Twitter, DM me questions. That's completely fine. Or when I post Math Monday topics, feel free to give me some feedback or what you would like to see, or fill out the polls, and that'd be good as well. I'm also putting all these on YouTube. There's a YouTube link below. Feel free to use that and go check out some of the old content. We've only been doing this for a few weeks, so there's not a lot, but that will start pulling together and maybe help you get some of the material you need to help prepare you for the ACT and your other classes. I enjoyed having y'all out tonight. Please feel free to hit the follow button. Maybe we'll throw in a special Wednesday stream one of these weeks with Word Problem Wednesday. New idea. Keep a lookout for it. And I hope y'all have a great night. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the follow button. If you want to subscribe,